All right. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing well. My name is Nat Carroll with Insure Compliance. We are a safety and compliance company, and I have with me Derek, and he is with LifeGuides, and he's the CEO with LifeGuides. And so I wanted to give a chance to Derek to introduce himself, and then do some follow-up questions on that, and then really dive into mental health in the workplace. And that is something that as a safety professional, I'm seeing a lot of as well. So I'm really grateful for Derek for joining this call. And I've just been really impressed with the conversations that we've had. So Derek, can you start off by telling us a little bit about your organization?
Sure. Matt, thank you for the opportunity to join you in the audience today. So I'm Derek Lundsten, as Matt mentioned, CEO and president of LifeGuides. We're a public benefit corporation. And what we do is we built a technology platform that facilitates peer-to-peer support. What that means is that for people who are going through a life experience or a life challenge and are confronted with the stress and considerations of whatever that may be. So think about caring for aging parents or homeschooling your kids or a sudden job change. Someone else has already been through that same experience and can be a mentor or a guide and can be someone who understands personally the emotions, the challenges, and the considerations that are going to help you and help you find your answers and tools to work through it more effectively, which in turn benefits people's families, their companies, and their communities. And that's what we do at LifeGuides.
I think that's a wonderful resource. I'm really excited to talk about some of that and how it can really help. But to start off with a little bit more follow-up on Derek, I have some questions. 10 questions in 60 seconds. So Derek, I'm just going to kind of spitfire this, and first answer that comes to your head, go ahead and let me know what it is. So first and foremost, let's begin. Timer on. Derek, what is the best compliment you've ever gotten?
That people know that I really care, that they feel that I care.
Oh, I like that. Favorite genre of movie?
It depends on the day, but I really like sci-fi and adventure movies. I like history-related movies, so I mean, I like it all, really, but yeah, it depends on the day.
That's awesome. How many companies have you started?
I think I'm at 6 or 7 now, and if you count me being first investor, it's probably approaching 10.
Serial entrepreneur, word that many people would use to describe you.
Kind of fierce and gentle at the same time. So that's interesting. Yeah, that's kind of relates to a compliment I've received. Somebody called me once a velvet hammer. So
I think I might need to ask more questions about that. That's fantastic. Yeah. Three most influential people in your life.
That's really a hard question too. I mean, I think right now at this present moment, in the last year and a half, I've been in my home with my wife and our 2 young children. So that's been hugely impactful on my mental health, on just my worldview. And we have another baby coming. And then over my life, obviously my parents, my grandparents, certain friends and mentors, it's hard to narrow it down. But I think right now, those 3 people have been pretty significant.
I love that. That's a great answer. Something you've read or listened to recently that's inspired you?
Well, I'm listening to a number of audiobooks right now. I've been going through them, but the one I just finished a couple of weeks ago was the David Goggins Can't Hurt Me book. And I've been meaning to read that one for quite some time, and that one inspired me for a few different ways, but I enjoyed that.
Okay, I'm writing that down. When are you most productive?
Early, well, it depends. Early in the morning is my kind of natural I'm a lark, so the first couple hours of the day I'm in my most kind of productive output stage, but then I'd say creatively I get more towards the end of the day.
Okay. Something you don't like doing?
Something I don't like doing. I don't particularly like putting toys and things together. I'm not particularly handy, so that's not my forte.
A favorite hobby or activity?
I really enjoy exercise of all different kinds: running, hiking, swimming, just getting outside and enjoying nature and moving my body.
That's wonderful. And then the last one, high school class that best prepared you for life?
High school class, I don't know. I was, as you and I were talking earlier, I was a musician growing up, and so I participated in all different forms of that, but I played the trumpet, and that helped me to develop practice and discipline and consistency, and I was quite good. So I used to compete, and yeah, that helped as well. And then the balance of sports as well. So I learned team and contribution there. So yeah, I think just, I don't know, I learned a lot from the extracurricular of school.
I like that. I think that's fantastic. You had a lot of really good answers on there. I'm writing down that book, by the way. I'm excited to read that. I think that's going to be a good one. So what I wanted to start with is kind of the challenges we're running into right now. In this new kind of the new workforce we have and the new challenges we're running into, what are you seeing, and kind of develop an importance for the safety and health on the mental side and how it leads into everything else, and then just other things of why people should be doing these things, and we have a couple other specific topics that I really want to dive into. But I wanted to start off specifically with, what are some of the top challenges that you're seeing with your clients and their employees right now?
Yeah, so I think one is, I'll talk on just the big meta of the whole thing, right? Like in some specifics. I mean, we've had a year and a half now of a completely unexperienced situation that the entire world has been going through, right? In the sense that we went quickly from going into offices to now working remotely in our home, right? We're connected to eventually our work all the time, and some people are feeling that stress, right? We're homeschooling, or some people are homeschooling their children, or balancing the demands of remote school or remote work, and the balance of responsibility of being an employee, a parent, a partner, contributor, and frankly, for the people who really like to get out and socialize, being quarantined and isolated, quote unquote, at home has probably been really challenging for a lot of people. And just the recognition that people's life has been affected, and there's no clarity on when or if things are going to return, and arguably they're not ever going to back to where they were, right? And so the kind of mourning of that and the acceptance of what's coming next is a really hard thing for people to manage. And when you look at that prolonged stress for a period of time, people have the opportunity to step into that and develop this as an opportunity, and to look to develop themselves and grow from this, or they can look and be resistant and resentful of it, and potentially deal with it in ways that are not so helpful for them or for those around them. And so I think that's the bigger issue that's kind of affecting the broader topic, which is, how do people's coping mechanisms spill into their business? And again, this work-life integration, or the work-life smash up that we've experienced, that is now helping people integrate it, that's part of where we are. And I think that you're seeing all different elements. Like some people are using this as a great moment to read more, to spend more time with their families, to develop their fitness, to develop their health. But many people are not, and they can't deal with the fact that life has changed. We're bombarded by news and outlets that are constantly weighing on the negative stuff, and people are fearful, whether they realize it or not. It's in the collective awareness. There's this sense of fear, of mortality, of uncertainty, of change, of control. Like those factors are all kind of competing in people's conscious and unconscious and subconscious awareness. And then people are dealing with that in different ways, and some are turning to drugs and alcohol, some are depressed or anxious, some are further withdrawing, and that is hurting them from being able to participate fully in aspects of their lives. And that's, everyone processes things differently. Everyone has a different experience, and there's no right or wrong way necessarily. Arguably, something that is healthy is probably better for someone, and we want to try to help people see that as a choice. But everyone processes things in their own time, and we as employers need to make sure we're giving outlets for people to deal with that, and hopefully to give them the opportunity to develop healthy patterns and healthy habits and healthy ways of adapting to change, right?
Yeah, no, I love how you phrased all of that. So I feel like on my end, I come in at the back end of, I'm already doing the suicide prevention or the workplace violence trainings, where it's already kind of too late. I'm more of trying to clean up a mess or help prevent a mess, instead of actually healing the core problems. So with what you do, what are the biggest benefits of how it's helping the people, these peer-to-peer groups? What's the power in those groups and being able to share those shared experience, or how is it in what you've seen, how is that helping a lot?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to acknowledge the work that you're doing on that part of what I'll call borderline crisis, or actually in crisis, where someone's considering taking their life or harming others. Like that is a really serious issue, and that's important work that you're doing. I think we have an opportunity, though, to be more proactive and be preventative, right? I had a mentor years ago that talked about healthcare. We actually, in our country, have a model for sick care, right? And this pandemic has been the model that talks about it. Healthcare is about preventative. It's about, taking care of your body and taking care of your mind and your emotions and your spirit, in advance, so that you have the internal resources and ability to go and to pull from that when things are challenging. And so what peer-to-peer support does, besides the fact that on the core level, it just helps people know that there's others in the situation. It gives people hope, right? Is at the core. It lets people know that, hey, if I can get through this, you can get through this. And you have within you, or we all have within us, the ability to learn, to grow, to adapt new ways and new ways of thinking and ways of being that allow us to connect more deeply and to look at the challenges as lessons or as gifts for our own development and growth, and how we translate that back to the people around us. And that's what peer-to-peer does. It allows for people to see the blind spot and the possibilities in each other, and to support each other, and to recognize that we're all in this together, literally, and that's what it does. I mean, there's no reason. I mean, think back to one of the best models of peer-to-peer of all time is Alcoholics Anonymous, right? I mean, it's literally, the idea is that someone can go through recovery. You have a buddy that helps you be accountable to your own sobriety, your own ability to grow, and you're also, working with a higher power, as I call it, to be, looking for your own path and to be in greater community and greater love, right? That's really at the core of what we're doing. We're selling hope, we're selling growth, and we're really designing to help people find their tribe. And I think that whether it's LifeGuides or not, I think it's an important dimension that we need to come back to that, because we continue to be, drawn away from that through the technological tools and just the information that we see kind of blasted at us so frequently.
Those are a lot of powerful principles right there. We have a new sales manager, and his big thing that he's trying to get us to do is meet in person as much as possible, or at least do video conference so you can see somebody else while you're talking to them.
Yeah.
There's such power. I think the word you said is creating a tribe and being unified in something and feeling that support.
Yes.
And it's really interesting. Celeste, who works with me and sent you and me an article this yesterday about languishing, and I read it, talked to my wife a little bit about it, and I mean, it's so neat to have that peer ability to express something together, even though it's a different shared experience.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important work. So that's Adam Grant's work, and a great, well-known author and thought leader in this space from Penn and Wharton. And yeah, I mean, I think what that word describes is this constant, like this state of just malaise, right? People are just kind of almost borderline numb in a sense, right? Because they're just like, what's going to come next, and how do I figure this out next, and how long is this going to keep going on for, and when can I, they feel stuck, right? And they just kind of, again, just feel like you're languishing, right? As opposed to thriving, as opposed to growing, as opposed to, doing that work. And I think that the only way that get out of languishing is to both look inward so you can go outward, right? And to give and to be of service and to receive that. That's the reciprocity of this. And that's what community really is, right? And, we live in challenging times, right? Leaders don't have all the answers, and we're also quick to condemn errors and mistakes. And I think that we need to recognize that, life is messy, life is filled with mistakes and missteps, and our ability to have some grace with that and to work together to overcome that is part of our work here collectively, right? And that starts with individual people doing it themselves.
I really appreciate how you said that. Collectively coming together. And there's one of the questions that I really wanted to ask while we were coming into this is, as an employee, we're trying to figure out what our next steps are. We're feeling depressed, we're feeling anxious. What can we do? But what's the employer's role? How can they help incorporate these mental health strategies and wellness into the workplace to really drive that growth and help people get to the next level?
Well, let me answer that question in just a moment. And I first want to give acknowledgement again to what you're doing, right? Because if employers are not addressing this in particular industries, right, you actually have a risk of people harming each other or not being safe, right? So because you're just fatigued, right? We all know when you're tired, you make mistakes. You lose your track of your awareness. and mistakes happen. You need to be focused. You need to be healthy. And so if that's not happening to its capability, the risk of unexpected errors or issues happens. So there's a practical responsibility and an opportunity for employers to make sure that their people are taken care of, right? And they're being provided resources. There's also just what I'll call the moral or just people-oriented perspective, which is, hey, if this was happening, the golden rule, if this was happening to me, what would I want someone to do in that situation? Would I want to just be hung out to dry, or would I want someone to come and give me some perspective, and depending on the person, either give me some love or give me some challenge to step into another level of growth, or to let me know that, hey, what you're experiencing, okay, be with that so you can move past it. But ultimately, the opportunity for employers is to make sure that we're providing a slew of different resources and outlets and possibilities, because as we talked about in the very beginning, that everybody processes stress, uncertainty, change, and their emotions differently. And so we need to make sure that, wherever or whomever that is, you're giving people an outlet that they will actually use or see value from, or at least be open to trying, so that they can move further down whatever that path they're going to get to, right? Whatever that is. And so, and you and I have talked about this before. I mean, as men, we were taught pretty young not to talk about emotions. Maybe it's a crass characterization, but when you compare men and women, we were conditioned differently. And so men in particular, and what I'll call male-dominant industries like construction, manufacturing, industrial engineering, where you see a high percentage of men, how do we deal with our emotions? We drink, we withdraw, we use other substances, we go out and do stupid things because it gives us the sense of freedom, gives us the sense that we can control this, and it gives us the sense of just numbing our emotions, as opposed to, how can I experience this more fully? How can I look at this as a lesson? And how can I see that we both have this experience, that there's value in that, right? And us acknowledging that. And that's where the peer-to-peer model comes in. And people, especially men, because there's a stigma around seeing a therapist, I can go talk to a friend, I can go to the bar with my buddies and watch a game, and what happens? We talk about what's going on in our life, in our families, in our stress. And that's, at least it's happening, but it's not optimal, right? There's better ways and better venues to start getting at that need.
Oh, that's really powerful. So yes, I do see that, the machoismo, I guess you can express it. There's a lot of different terms that I've heard, but especially in these industries that we're working in, people hide behind this masculinity. I'm not going to express my emotions. Men don't cry. Everything else, and that also causes more accidents.
Yeah.
Because there are points where people are lifting heavy objects, and that same masculinity comes in. I can't ask for help, I'm a man, and then they throw it back out for the rest of their life.
Exactly. And that's ego. It's ego, right? I mean, that's the real, and it's because you want to feel strong. You don't want to feel weak, right? We want that, and there's something to be said for that too. I'm not it's important to have that masculine energy. It's important to do hard things. And sometimes it's knowing when the appropriate context is to have that particular emotion, and knowing that you're not stuck. It's not an A or B. You can have an array. You can have a spectrum of how you work these stuff, and that's the conditioning that I think we need to be more embracing of, right?
Oh, and that's so powerful. And I think that's the peer-to-peer group, the way it's set up is you help people be able to express it and find that spectrum. So it's not either you're hurt or you're okay. It's I may be in the middle today. I may be on the right or left, or maybe there's even outliers. So I think that's so powerful, that this method of mental health, being able to express things without having to necessarily see a therapist, is so, life-changing.
Yeah.
It is so powerful to even talk about. And I wanted to take just a slight step back, because you didn't start off as CEO of LifeGuides. You started off as an investor. So what inspired you to come from that investor state to really dive in? Because this is something you're really passionate about.
Yeah.
I think just that understanding will even take it a little bit more into why this is so important.
Yeah, so when I invested in the company about 4 years ago, I had met Mark, the founder, and I had met Will Bunker, who was the founder of Match.com, at an event. But what I was drawn to in LifeGuides was the business plan, was the idea that human connection could reduce the unnecessary suffering, right? And I felt literally what I'll call a spiritual attraction or draw to that concept, right? A responsibility that, hey, we need to help other people. Like, and there's a time and a place to do that better. And my career in general has been about helping people perform in different aspects of their life and their business and their relationships and their health. And so this felt like another level of that. It felt like fundamental, and people talk about first principles. It felt like just what makes us human and what brings us together. How do we build trust? How do we demonstrate care and love, right? And that was, for me, felt like the next frontier in business. And so I brought more and more people into this venture, other investors and teammates and friends, until I just got more and more activated by the work that we were doing and by this mission, until I was invited by Mark and others to join as an operational executive and to step in and lead the mission, right? And so that is the short answer of how I got more and more involved. And now we're at a point where we have commercialized and we're building. And again, no one could have anticipated. Even myself. We moved from the East Coast to Phoenix the month before the pandemic started. I stepped into this operational CEO role 2 months before this all happened, and now I'm gifted a once in a lifetime or unexpected. No one's ever experienced this global pandemic and a complete change of life in a matter of weeks. And trying to sustain a business and grow a business. And we've fortunately, been, I'd say, able to serve and been beneficiaries of this situation. That through uncertainty, it's brought awareness of what we're talking about, of the unexpected challenges of life, the opportunities for growth, and how we as people can come together to work through them more effectively and better resourced. And so it's only just helped to further, solidify our work and to raise people's awareness on why now. Right, and why this is so important.
Oh, that's powerful, because we face this pandemic, something that we haven't seen. I mean, maybe not even when the Spanish flu hit. This is something completely different, because everything was much more intertwined, and what you're doing has helped even more. So it passed the threshold of this is an extremely trying time, and what your work is doing is even more important with all of that.
Well, not just the pandemic. Think about what we're right now. You and I are having a real-time conversation, face-to-face on video, right? I mean, like we went from companies talking about digital transformation for a decade, and in a matter of 2 weeks, we went from work at an office to complete remote work, right? We as a collective society, right? And so it's just wild. And so now, and the idea that we can have real-time data, the fact that there was a vaccine developed in less than a year with as much data as has been developed for previous vaccines over a decade is mind-boggling, right? When you think about the level of access and distribution and the speed that which information flows. And there's no discussion about like where people are, just that in and of itself is incredible, right? So that's a fact that, it just speaks to the level of innovation and speed. And I think it's going to increase, right? Back to healthcare. It's what is informed now is a conversation about health and treatment and proactive wellness, and how do you balance considerations around that, and how do people prepare more effectively, and how do we respond? And it's shown that when people are motivated to make change, they can do it in an instant, right?
Yep. Oh, that's powerful. And I was told once that in America specifically, we work so hard and then spend all of our money on healthcare.
Yeah.
And so this is a powerful way to focus on slowing down, taking care of yourself and the common cause of humanity to really grow and work healthily.
Yes.
So this is all extremely powerful. Now, there's 5 minutes left, and I wanted to talk about a couple topics specifically. One of them is about the idea of mental health, especially when you're dividing it between time, energy, and money. Because there's a lot of challenges that you find in each of these areas. And so on this PowerPoint that you see, we divided it kind of in the different ages of people. Now, as you're out there helping people, what are kind of the common challenges in each of these groups when we're talking about energy, time, and health? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I think it speaks to the natural progression of life, right? When if you break this down, so in that 20 to 35, and think back to anyone on this call, think back to where you were and what you were balancing at this time of life, putting yourself in the shoes of others. At 20 to 35, you're getting out of university, you're trying to find your first job, you're trying to apply your skills, you're looking to define your purpose, you're looking to define meaning, you're transitioning your friends, maybe you're looking to find your relationship, right? You're looking to put down roots, you're looking to grow, right? Those are, and people want to get out there, they want to experience life, they want to experience adventure, they want to contribute and make change, right? And then you get maybe to your 30s into your 40s, and you're in the prime age of building your career and raising children and buying a home or building in your community or just coaching kids sports or participating in different elements of life, right? And helping your own children experience that, or helping your parents go through their own aging process. At that point, some people are now balancing their own parents being involved in health issues or challenges and whatever that may look like. And then when you get to that later stage, you're thinking about, okay, what comes next? I have kids who are going off to college. I have to manage my financial planning. I need to think through the future, making sure that there's enough money if I'm not working as long, or if I want to keep working, how do I maintain my health to keep being productive and to make more change, right? And I think that's an opportunity too. You hear a lot about, and if you look at one of the shows I had, Chip Conley, who was one of the advisors for Airbnb, he leads this organization called the Modern Elder Academy. It's all about, life. Your second act begins at 50 and 60, that you now have a lot of wisdom, experience, and resources that you can actually reapply that. And we have the healthcare, quote unquote, the true healthcare, wellness care, to be able to be healthy well into the 90s and beyond, and that could extend even further, right? And so these are real considerations. And so I think a couple of things. One, that's the segmentation of people's lives right now. But if you think about what the expansion of time can look like, and if we had more time and we had the prolonging of these events and the opportunity, and if you think about, and this is a whole nother topic, but look at money and how we transact and the role that plays in energy and time, what's happening around decentralized currencies right now, that's a whole other possibility, right? This is such an exciting time if people are able to look at this that way, right? If people are able to say, hey, you know what, this is a moment to reprioritize health, to really, and health in all ways, physical health, emotional health, family, mental, financial, spiritual. If people are really focused on developing that, the chance to make massive transformational change for humanity exists. And this slide really excites me for what it's worth, as you probably gathered.
No, and one of the common answers as we're talking right now, and the things that you keep talking about, is growth, whether it be on a personal scale, a societal scale, a cultural scale, or a human scale. It is exciting. It's powerful. And how can we help employees grow? What can we do to really help them grasp that desire to grow? And that's kind of from what I understand, what I think, that's how you keep mental health, is you're always growing, you're always learning, you're progressing, so that you don't stay stagnant. How can we help employees with that?
Well, I think that's the first piece, is acknowledging as employers, we have both an opportunity and a responsibility to do that, right? This goes back to what I've said in other conversations. There's a new social contract emerging between employers and employee, or between the market of labor and contribution and how we create value in the system, right? Is a better way of looking at it. And that is being redefined, right? The rules of that are being redefined and renegotiated in real time. We're experiencing that happening in real time. And so the leaders of organizations have the opportunity to step in and lead in a new way, right? There's a time for new ideas. There's a time for trying new things. This is a unique time to do that. And new businesses, new models, new ways of thinking, new ways of being, reframing our values are happening right now in the collective experience of the world. And we, whatever age you are, have the chance to play a role in shaping that, both in your own individual lives, your family's lives, and the organizations that we work with, right? And I think that is the biggest piece, is that we, and I talked about this in another conversation recently, the role that companies are taking in education, right? Helping to make sure that kids and families are getting educated, not being saddled in massive amounts of debt, right? So that people can go on and participate, like giving people access to participate in a new economy, right? That's part of the conversation. I mean, the Business Roundtable, we talked earlier on, Matt, about conscious capitalism. The idea that as employers look beyond just shareholders to employees, families, their competitors, employees and families, their suppliers, employees and families, and the model that we are interdependent, right? And how does that shift? Right? That's what's happening right now. And that there's opportunity with technology for many people to win and win differently and to create a world that is more abundant, more accessible, and will create more value for everybody.
I like that. No, that's powerful. It's making sure the leaders understand their responsibility. That's one of the most powerful things. And there was the study about languishing where you need to take time for yourself. And so there's a company in India that started off with, hey, take time for yourself during the day where it's uninterrupted, where you just get to do your projects. And the engineers were 47% more productive. And then the second one was the company mandated, here's your time that you have to take, nobody in there. 65% of the engineers were more productive.
Wow.
And so I love how you just said that it is up to the leaders to make this happen.
Yeah. And the beauty is, and you love this too, we live in a time with data, we're in a data renaissance right now, right? In terms of how we can process data and information and use that as a tool to help make better decisions and to see the value and impact, right? Like that's going to be the most exciting part of the next decade, is how data is used and interpreted quickly, meaningfully, and to make a better impact.
That's an awesome forecast, because I agree with you. I think seeing that data is really going to be able to help the leaders make the right decisions on the next steps, not only for their company's growth, but for the employees, how they can take them from where they are to the next level and really implement what you're saying now. Take time for yourself, prioritize your mental health, and then everything else can come in and fall into place after that.
Yeah.
We have reached our 30 minutes. It didn't feel like it did. But is there anything else that you want to say? Last mental health tips, anything that you've seen that's been working before we wrap this up? And I'm really grateful. I learned a lot from this. And it's really helped me prioritize some of the things that I'm doing personally, not only in my life, but with my company and with my employees, how we can really help them go to the next level.
Amazing, Nat. Well, I'm happy that you received value from this. I certainly enjoyed the conversation and enjoyed your questions. And yeah, the last thing I would say is that mental health is one aspect of health, right? That it's all working on all aspects. The harmony of your health is really important. And the physical affects the mental affects the physical, emotional, spiritual. They're all interconnected, right? And so I think the recognition that we need to work on upgrading all of them individually and as a team is part of the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Derek. Thanks, Derek Lundsten from LifeGuides. This is revolutionary. This is something that I think that every company needs to start implementing to really not only just improve their employees' life, but from health and safety perspective, this would get rid of lots of the problems that I'm seeing out there. And this is a powerful step. So thank you so much, Derek, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Likewise, look forward to it. Have a great day.